Morning, everyone. I thought I'd start a couple minutes early and we can just chat. Hope everybody's doing really good. I'm so excited. We spent so long since we've done a live. I don't know. My hair is too long. I don't know why it's taken me so long to get a live going, but sometimes you got to kind of be in the mood for stuff because otherwise it's just boring for everybody. So it took me. Get a Ooh, live going, but great. My computer, iPad just repeated me. I wanted to make sure it was working, so I had it on my iPad. No, sometimes you just gotta be in the moods. You're fired up, and I am definitely fired up, and I hope you guys are too. I don't have any real agenda topic set. The color blue in this room. I should actually type it in so that everybody sees it because it's Summer Nights by Benjamin Moore. Because I get that question all the time. Um, Anyway, I didn't have anything specific to talk about. I was just more interested in touching base with you guys and seeing what you guys are up to in your garden or planning for your garden. I did get a ton of great questions on both YouTube and Instagram, so we'll run through some of those, but we're gonna wait a little bit because I just want to kind of chat with everybody. So I'm doing this through a program called StreamYard. It probably says that up in the corner. And the reason I did that is because I should be able to put people's comments up on the screen while I'm while I'm talking, which I think can be helpful so you guys know what I'm responding to at the time. Good morning, everyone. Nova Scotia, Wisconsin, Green Bay. Lots of Wisconsinites here today. New Jersey. Oh, British Columbia, Canada. I got to get up there. Texas. How's it in Texas right now? Probably lovely. South Dakota. I hear it's been very snowy in South Dakota this year. Or maybe that's North Dakota. I have a friend in one of the Dakotas who's gotten a lot of snow. Yeah, sick of the snow. Me too. Columbus, Maryland. Well, it's so great to see everyone. Um, I'm just so happy everyone's here. I'm so excited. I love talking gardening, so I'm so excited to see so many people here. If you're watching this on the replay, hello. I'm recording that for later. So, hello. I'm thank you. So happy you guys are here. Um, so, um, oh wow, everyone's coming in quick here. It's great. Ice storm warning. Another one in Texas. Boy, you guys have had just the worst weather in just so long. Oh my gosh, 2 years now of really terrible weather for you guys. Dogs are loving the snow. They love it. But we first got snow yesterday. We got about 6 or 7 inches yesterday. The most snow we've gotten in one event all year long, and possibly the most snow we've gotten up until this point cumulatively. I've never had a winter with less snow. It's crazy. I'm worried because sometimes when we have these, what we do is we end up getting a whole bunch of snow in March and April. And if you live up north, you know that March and April snow is basically slush falling out of the sky, and it's just terrible to live in. And it's the last thing you want to see in March and April. We always get an April snow. I was looking through my camera roll, and we always get an April snow. I have pictures from every year of daffodils through snow. So it's very common to have one, but it usually comes and goes pretty quick. Sarah says, what differences do you see between getting a lot of snow in the winter and a lot of cold in the winter? Oh, you know what? The snow part is the key there. So if we have a really snowy winter, it's a total drag for people, but it's great for the plants. They come out into spring so much happier. There's so much nice hydration. I think that snow, that's like rainwater, obviously. So there's really good nutrients in there, and plants come out just so invigorated. The cold doesn't matter if we've got a good layer of snow. If we have cold and no snow, that's a disaster. And if we have one of these situations where we get a whole bunch of snow and then we get a big warm up, and then all of a sudden it goes from like 30 degrees to below zero, that's really, that's when plant cells, I think, not a scientist, I think plant cells soak up all this water and then it freezes and the plant cells just sort of explode. And it's terrible. That's the years that I have lost more plants in winter have been the years where that's what's happened, where we've had a big warm up, so all the snow melts, and then a really deep freeze, and then it's bad. Oh, this is such a hang on, let me find this question. This is such a timely question. Video filmed last weekend. It's not a very good video, but it's the update because a lot of people want to know what's going on with that. So there is an update. I filmed it last weekend. I just could even be up tomorrow, but it will be up very soon. I just have to edit it. Yeah, Carol says powdery snow is not sufficient for water purposes. Yeah, absolutely. The amount of water content in snow, absolutely, um, makes makes a difference. Oh, wait a second. I'm sorry. I just got distracted because of peonies and palomas is apparently in the Keys. So that's great. So, I'm gonna try to hey Roxana, I'm gonna try to keep up with the questions here. And again, like I said, I got a ton of questions a- ahead of this. So I'll get to those later, but I just want to talk to you guys first because it's been so long since we've had a chat. Will I do my fish pond again this year? Yeah, it worked so well. I had so much fun with that. It worked so well. And I found a person on Facebook to come and take my fish at the end of the season. And I told her, I said, if I do this again next year, you want my fish again? She said, absolutely. You just call me. So I've got a person all lined up to take my fish because all I did in this is the stock tank pond in the middle of my vegetable garden. I like to grow water plants in there, but the mosquito situation is a problem. And I have used um, BT in the form of mosquito dunks before, but someone said try the fish, which keeps the water clearer too, and the fish worked great. And all I did was go to the pet store and I bought a variety of feeder fish. So I didn't buy fancy goldfish. I just bought feeder fish. And I did not know that guppies had so many babies. So I ended the year with way more fish than I than I started it with. So that was but it was fun and I will do that again because it worked really well. I am doing ginger again this year. This year, instead of starting all my stuff from, essentially seed tubers, I ordered plants from Jung Seed because they sell them in plants and they ship them to you in plants. So I think those ship in April. They will have to stay in my house under lights for a while to grow on because you can't put that stuff out until your soil is really warm. But it's a lot to deal with. And it's a lot of tending ginger. I mean, in my area, you want to ideally start your turmeric and ginger in like January, and that is a long time to tend stuff. So this year I just kind of did the easy route and bought plants. Also, I also started way more plants last year than I needed. So I don't need that. I just need a few. Oh, you're so Natasha says that her neighbor raises koi and has a duck to take care of the mosquitoes. Well, that's fun. Although my neighbors next door went through a duck phase briefly, and it was the worst moments of their life. They ended up hating them, and the ducks hated them, and it was a big duck disaster. Okay, I love this question. How to remove a weed barrier? Okay, weed barriers. I am anti weed barrier in all situations. I don't even have weed barriers underneath my gravel paths because the same thing always happens. The pores that are in there always get clogged over time and you get weeds growing through them. And then the worst thing is that now those weeds have roots that go through the membrane and it's a big mess. So the way I've done my gravel paths, and like the gravel in the vegetable garden is I put down a layer of for us it's crushed limestone, but it depends on where you live, what you can get. It's essentially we call it road base here, and compact that really hard and then put gravel over the top. I still get weeds, but it's not the terrible situation that I've seen with weed barrier. So if you're gonna get rid of weed barrier, um, I don't think there's a better time to do it, to be honest. I'd probably go for early in the season, early enough that you can hit those weed seeds as they start germinating before you plant in there. Weed torch would be great for that once the weed barrier's gone, but I don't think there's a really perfect time to do that. A ducking disaster. Yes, a ducking disaster indeed. Um, So this is a good question. When I'm planning to bring out my warm crop plants. So for things that really need warm soil temperatures, tomatoes, peppers, anything in that realm, I don't usually do that till the first week of June. It's unless we have an odd year, before Memorial Day is too early here for that. So same thing. That's the same thing as when I plant out my dahlias too. I plant out dahlias and tomatoes the same time because I just need the soil to be warm enough to do it. So um, so I wait until I don't have any worries about it. My kumquat is having a real tough time. I'm happy yours is doing well. Mine's having a rough go of it. I'm not sure. It's been down in the basement. Maybe I pushed it into too much light down there, and I should have let it go a little bit more dormant. I don't have great luck with citrus, and so this kumquat is my last go for a while at citrus, and hopefully we can make it through. But so this is a question about boxwood. So you guys might know that I found boxwood blight in my garden last year. Fortunately, it was an area of boxwoods that was it was really fortunate how this happened. Was contained to an entirely separate area of the garden on the other side of the driveway. They all came from the same place. I'm sure it came with it. And I did send off. There's videos that you guys can watch if you want to know more about it. But I did send them off to the local university lab, which does testing for boxwood blight for free. They don't charge for that. And it came back, and I was the fifth case of it in the landscape in our state, meaning not in a nursery or garden center, and the first in our county. However, that's because I knew what to look for. I'm sure there's more of it. It's just that I knew the signs to look for. So most people would see that and not think it might be boxwood blight and send it off. Um, boxwood blight. So the bad news is that boxwood blight is a thing. It is probably going to be everywhere. But there are ways to deal with it, and there are ways to prevent it. And there are at least two companies, probably more, but two that I'm well aware of, who have boxwood blight resistant cultivars coming out. So there's hope for that. So I would say if you already have existing block boxwoods, which Roxanne, I know you've got some beautiful ones. Um, I do think that, and I haven't talked a lot about this product because I wanted to try it out, and I've been using it. I used it a lot last year. Top Buxus makes two products, a fertilizer, and then also they have these tabs at Grow and Restore or something. And it's a spray on thing. I feel like that really helped. I mean, knock on wood here, but I didn't have any other signs of boxwood blight anywhere else in my garden last year. And it was humid and sticky and hot and the perfect conditions for boxwood blight to go nuts. So, and someone mentions that a lot of people recommend Top Buxus. I wanted to try it for myself because I never know. Like I know, like Martha is big into it. Like I want to try it for myself. I don't know. I don't know what Martha's getting paid to say, but so far it's been working really well. And it's funny. A lot of people swear by copper fungicides, and then when I talk to the State Department of Agriculture, who called me immediately when I got my test results, that's how concerned they were about this. We had a lot of conversations. They were very helpful. And they said, it's not really practical to keep up with copper fungicide because you have to reapply and reapply and reapply. And although it works, they don't see like that's a very realistic goal for home gardeners to be able to do. So that's that. So I think I think, yes, it's out there. It's probably coming. I also think that there's a lot of ways to deal with it. I do think perhaps considering preventative spraying with that top buxus is something to at least consider. Um, yeah, I do think that there's ways to deal with it. I really freaked out about it last year, and I probably freaked out more than I had to, but it shocked me to be sure. I did listen to this Way to Garden podcast about deer prevention. It was very interesting, and the most interesting thing that came out of it, I think it was what, last weekend or 2 weeks ago that one came out. The most interesting thing that I thought came out is something that I feel like I've observed, and now I feel better about this, which is that if the first experience a specific deer has at a particular plant in your garden is unpleasant, they probably won't come back to that one. And that was really interesting. And I would say that I've seen that. I also there was also some discussion that doing what I do, which is I spray my entire garden. I don't just spray the plants. I've got lots of deer resistant plants in my garden. I don't just spray the plants that are not specifically deer resistant. I spray the entire thing. And I do feel like it creates a barrier. And I do feel like it creates a barrier, and that's really helpful to keep them out as long as I stay on it. Last year, I sprayed faithfully every 7 to 10 days. Now, the label says every 30 days. I sprayed every 7 to 10 days. I feel like that was perfect. And when I got sick of doing it in September, within 2 weeks, all my hostas were gone. But that 7 to 10 day window, takes care of any rain you might get, but also, plants are constantly putting on new growth. And if they don't have that coating of stuff on them, they'll taste test that and then they keep eating, So I did put at the beginning of the comments, I did put in a link for, in fact, I can put it in right now too. Again, I think I can just paste it right there. There we go. This is a good place to go to get your first and last frost date by zip code. Going by your first and last frost date by zip code is way better than going by zone, because as you pointed out, your zone is completely different. There are areas in my zone that have a frost date that's 3 weeks different from mine. So, it's it's just good to look it up to get as specific as you can. Now, interesting, when I went to this website, I'm using a last frost date of May 10th, which is a 10% last frost date. Noah used to have this fabulous chart, and I linked to it in a video, and then about 2 months after I linked to it in a video, Noah website got rid of that, which was unfortunate because it gave you the chances of frost at each time. So that May 10th there is a historical 10% chance of having a frost on May 10th or May 9th or whatever date I was using. So when I went into that almanac thing, it said May 2nd for my last frost date. So I might actually be able to start some more stuff a little earlier. Oh, I had a lot of questions about Japanese beetles. And yeah, they stink. So Japanese beetles, we have them. They behave in kind of a cyclical fashion. So you might have years where you have a lot more, and you might have years where you have fewer. Last year was kind of a light year for me. I don't know what that means for next year. I will say this. I do not believe in Japanese beetle traps. You guys have probably all heard this. Japanese beetle traps have a pheromone in them that attracts Japanese beetles. So and it works. It absolutely works. But the concern is that if you have a smaller property, and if you don't empty those traps basically every day, you will bring in more Japanese beetles than you would have had otherwise. And if they can't get to the trap, or if the trap is overflowing, they will eat things in your garden. So I don't really believe in that. It seems to me like there's a lot of factors involved in that. So I personally don't use that. I'm a hand picker, and it's partly because my issue with Japanese beetles hasn't been terrible like it is in some places. The key is not the key, but one of the things that helps a lot is to get the very first one. So Japanese beetles sends out like little scouts, and so they those first ones are going out to find everything. So as soon as you start seeing Japanese beetles, pick them off. I do the soapy water, flick them into soapy water, get rid of them that way. And that should help a little bit with however many come after that. There are some organic sprays you can use. I haven't personally gone to any of those yet. And then there is milky spore that is you can apply in grassy areas. And that really only works in areas where your grass, your lawn is affected by them because they are overwintering. The grubs are overwintering in your lawn, and what it does is kill the grubs. It doesn't do anything about any of the Japanese beetles that are flying in from your neighbors. I mean, that's what they say is it doesn't really work unless your neighbors are doing it too, because it doesn't do anything for the Japanese beetles that come in from somewhere else. So that's that. Let me just, I know I'm getting behind here. And I do want to know, you guys, while I'm going through some of these questions, I want to know if you guys are doing big projects in your garden this year or just kind of like routine gardening. I'm just curious if it's one of those years where everyone's doing a lot of big stuff or not. Um, as soon as I start seeing any sort of bud growth is when I start spraying for deer. Technically, I should really be spraying all winter too, but I have to take a break or I'm going to lose my mind. Um, oh, here we go. Nope. I've had the Asian jumping worms in my garden for 4 years at least, probably, and everyone I know has them. I don't believe. I mean, I think if you live in an area where there is a lot of jumping worm issues, you're going to have them. I'm positive. I am positive I got it from a topsoil delivery because that is where I saw it. And a lot of places that were dealing with sort of hard good type things, or not hard good, but like soil goods and mulch and stuff, we're not really fully willing to do what you need to do to get rid of those. And the state didn't really crack down on that very, very much. So I'm positive that's how I got it. I would have gotten it otherwise. I would have gotten it from trading plants with people, bringing it, even in bag mulch, they're finding them. So it is disheartening and it's disgusting and it's not good, but it's a big problem and a lot of people are working on it and hopefully someone's going to come up with some options to deal with. There's a few things you can do. Tea seed meal is um, is the main thing that they've been talking about. I did do an application of a fertilizer which is no longer sold that is made up of a lot of tea seed meal, and it did work and it did kill worms in that area. Keep in mind, it kills all the worms. I don't care personally. This is a whole discussion that I don't feel like getting into because people get really mad, but I don't actually believe that worms are nearly as important as everybody makes worms out to be, because there are a whole bunch of other critters in our soil that do a lot of that good work that we need insects to do. And there are no native worms to North America. They were all imports. So, granted, a long time ago. So, in some ways, there's been some adapting. But, anyways, those are some quick thoughts on that. Yes, I did. I found some. I can't remember where, but I ordered some. So, thank you. And a lot of people told me where they found them. So, I can't thank everyone enough. That was so sweet of everybody to give me a heads up on that. Yes, Brandy Fred. Love it. One of my favorites. It's a dwarf tomato from the Dwarf Tomato Project. It's really good. Um, okay, here we go. This is so yeah, use beneficial nematodes. That would be the milky spore. That's great. So it worked there. So that's really good to know that that worked. Yeah, silver shield plectranthus is a little hard to get going, which is why I did exactly what you're talking about doing, which is overwintering a plant and just taking cuttings because it grows so easily from cuttings. Holy mackerel. You are taking on a big project this year. Wow, that's exciting. I think it's so cool to see all these flower farms starting. I can't imagine that it's easy, but I mean, if you're going to work really hard at a job, that sounds like a pretty fun job to work hard at. Um, oh my gosh. I have to tell you, I give you so much credit. This is one of my great fears. Not fears, but I would find it extremely, I don't know, disconcerting and challenging to move to a drastically different gardening zone, because I feel like I know it now. I got it down here. But if I move to like, I mean, I think 4 to 7, I'd be fine. But if I move to like an 8 or up, I think that would take me a long time to adjust to that. Oh, that's good. Good for you. That's a good project to do. Let me scroll down here. Um, I use Messina Deer Stopper 2. It smells like cinnamon and cloves, and it works very well for me, and I don't change it up. A lot of people say, including that podcast, said you should change up your deer repellents. I don't, and it's worked for me for a couple of years. So I'm just going to stick with that because I like it and it smells good to me. It's one that works. It's got a strong odor, but also apparently tastes bad to deer. Um, I have enough plants and shrubs, said no gardener ever. Yep, exactly. Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. Someone just gave me a little tip. That was really sweet. Thank you. Um, Adding a squash trellis to the veg garden. That's good. I've never done that because I kind of like mine not to be. I just sort of like the way it looks, but I sort of wish I had designed for that. I might do that someday. Um, oh, this is a fun question. How did I meet Roy Diblik? So you guys know I've been doing this series of videos with Roy Diblik. Actually, Roy Diblik reached out to me. Well, actually, Roy works with a guy. His name is Dave, and he owns a company called Geneva Lake Creative or Lake Geneva Creative. And he does all the filming for Roy. And he has kind of a nice deal with Roy, and he's really recognized that Roy needed some help, getting his message out there. So he offered to do all his filming for him. So he sort of helps Roy come up with ideas for videos, and he reached out to me last year and said, "Hey, would you guys like to do? Would you like to do a video? You could come down and talk to Roy." And that's what we did. And so we did the 2 videos last spring, or 3 videos last spring. And then this year we were chit chatting, and I said, "Hey, I've got this new garden area. Would you be interested in, um, working through that as a process, and then showing people?" Because Roy has great videos on how to design on paper, and his whole philosophy. I love his philosophy. I think I call Roy a plant philosopher more than a plantsman or a designer, although he is all of those things. But I love his way of thinking about how plants work together rather than just picking the plant that you like and then picking another plant that you like and then trying to put them together. He really thinks of things in combinations from the get-go. So I had asked them they'd be interested in working together on a garden and helping people see how it goes from paper to a space. And I hope you guys are finding it helpful. I'm learning a ton. Um, but I think it'll be great to see it go from piece of paper in real life. And that's why we picked that spot, is because it's a really manageable spot. It's 30 by 15 roughly. And granted, there now the space has gotten much bigger and we could have done bigger, but I like keeping it that size because I feel like that's a very approachable size, and a lot of people might be adding a garden that's that size. Um, yeah, we talked a little. Here's just this. Yeah, we did talk about that. So far, so good. Everything else was fine so far, but it's got to be constantly vigilant on that. So Diane is doing big projects, mostly structural, removing raised beds, learning how to lay stone. Yes, this is the problem. Hard help is hard to find, and when you do find it, it's really expensive. I laid all the big stone path that we have from our house to the garage, and all our terraced walls that I have over in that part of the garden. I did that all myself. Mr. Much More Patient was working out of town at the time, so I would wait for a weekend to come have him help me move. There was like 3 enormous stones that I need 2 people for, and that was it. And I did the rest of that. And I think about that, and I think I'm glad I did it 10 years ago rather than now because it was so much work. By the way, this is my 20th year in this garden, so I'm gonna do some videos. I don't have pictures from the beginning. I can't. I don't know if I didn't take any pictures from when we first moved in. If I did, I can't find them because they weren't digital. They were, real pictures, and I don't know where I put them, which is really a shame. but I am going to do some videos taking a look at how how it's all changed over 20 years. I can't believe we've been here 20 years. Although no part of my garden is 20 years old because I've redone it so many times. Putting in watering zones. That's good. Oh, I wanted to talk about, I'm going to leave that comment up for a second. I want to talk about watering. I had a lot of questions about irrigation. You know, I think that irrigation depends so much on where you live. I don't have irrigation. The only places I have irrigation, I have drip irrigation in the vegetable garden, and I have a line of drip in that skinny little bed alongside the house underneath the window box because that doesn't really even get any rain from the top. And um, that's it. And I think that if you live in a place like we all see, like, we all know that Laura, our answer, has has no option. They're in high desert there, so they need water. But I think a lot of us are not in that situation, and I think there's a lot of people who put in drip who maybe don't need drip. I like to do what is called growing plants hard. At least that's a term I've always heard for it, which means basically this applies not to annuals, but it applies to perennials, shrubs, trees. Basically, you baby them for a year, you water them as much as you need to for that first year. For trees and shrubs, that might continue for like another year. And then after that, you let them go. And the idea is they will search for water. They will grow those roots, and then you are not a slave to your garden. I Now last year I watered my garden more than I ever have because we were in a major drought last year and I had photo shoots happening in my garden. So I will water my garden if we're in a drought, which is every 3 to 4 years that happens. But otherwise, I don't. Stuff goes in the garden. It gets watered once a year, for a year, if that. Honestly, I'm not even all that good about it for the whole time, but I do try to keep up on it so it gets well established, and then that's it. So I would say, check your rainfall where you are before you spend a lot of. Now, vegetable gardens different, annuals different. Um, Great question. Milorganite, we call that Milwaukee's finest around here. It is solidified human waste sludge from Milwaukee. And we've had it for ages because they've been doing this in Milwaukee for ages, and now the rest of the world has it. I think it's the only fertilizer I use on the lawn. It's high nitrogen. So it's fabulous for lawns, and it's the best. It's the best fertilizer for hostas. If you have to fertilize your hostas, it's key. I don't find that it works well as a deer repellent. The guy who was on Margaret Roach's podcast 2 weeks ago, and several other people have written me, swear by it and say it works really well for deer. I haven't found that it works that well for me. So, but works good as a garden fertilizer. And you can fertilize your whole garden with that, but just keep in mind it's nitrogen. So make sure it's something that needs nitrogen. Um, let's see. Oh, this is a great. I just want to. This is great. I'm really glad that's helpful. That's the whole goal with that series is to help people start. That actually brings up. I did have a lot of questions about how do you start a garden project? Like, how do you start a design if you don't know where to start? And I am a very visual person. So back in the days when I used to use House, which I liked a lot better than Pinterest, or Pinterest, I don't care for really either one of them anymore. Now these days I just save stuff on Instagram. That's actually where all my save stuff is now, is on Instagram. If I see a photo of a garden or a garden space that I like, emotionally, like have an immediate emotional connection to it, I just hit save. I don't worry about why I'm saving it, what I like about it, analyzing any of that. I just save it. And then later on, I can go back and look at all those saved photos, and almost always a theme develops to me. So it's obvious to me what what it was that I liked. And that's where I start, or looking through magazines. But I have to have it, for Roy uses impressionist paintings to get ideas. Um, I think that's fabulous, and I love how he makes that work. I use images of other gardens to make it work. Um, this is I like this question a lot because I know because obviously the plan with the garden that I'm working on with Roy is we're packing it full of plants. Like that's the budget is there, right? That's where that's happening. The whole idea is that that is going to be other than the growing on and the adjusting in future years. That's going to be a finished garden at by this summer. So, but in terms of affordability, I will tell you this. When I started this garden, I was a member, I don't know if such things still exist. I was a member of a plant co-op. It was an online plant co-op. This was pre-Facebook. It was on like a message board. I have no idea how I found it. And it was everyone would buy plugs. So it was a co-op would go in. It was essentially a wholesale co-op. The person who ran it would, essentially box up these wholesale plugs that we had all gone on. She made a little bit of money on it and paid the taxes on it and did all that stuff, but essentially sold us plugs at wholesale prices. And that is how I did most of my garden. Most of my garden, and that's why I like the shade garden kind of looks like a mess. I really need to dig it all up and redesign it because I bought plugs and especially of hostas because she loved hostas. So there was always a deal on hostas. And I just threw them in and figured I'll deal with it later. But that was a very affordable way to do it. It was also, here we are, what, 15 years later, and all those plants are big and looking great, but it took a long time to get there. So that's where the patience comes in. I think these days I would do a combination of both. I'd probably focus on an area that I wanted to look at that meant a lot to me and put most of my resources into that. And then I would work on starting other areas and get the soil going and all that, and maybe fill those in with like annual flowers from seed for the first few years until you can get to those. But I find that having a whole yard that looks like it's under construction, I used to do it that way and I don't like that anymore. So I think it might be better to start with a small area, make it look good, fill in what you need to, get your soil straightened out, fill in what you need to, and then plant some annual stuff there. Um, yeah, Laura says Milorganite works really well for her parents. That's good. Um, let's see. Yeah, so just gonna point this out. Some of those sprays they work well, but boy, they don't smell good. Holy mackerel. Um, Hi AJ's Green Thumb. I recognize you from your nice comments. I know you're a good watcher. Thank you for that. Um, oh, okay. Well, here's a good question. Let's talk about some seed starting stuff. Yeah, no, you don't want smell's not good. Generally speaking, that means you're keeping things too wet. Now, it could be that you started with kind of questionable soil. You can sterilize your own stuff, but if you buy seed starting mix and you're starting from that, that's sterilized already or should be. Generally speaking, it's a lack of airflow and too much water if you start getting smell, and that things aren't going to grow well in that either. So I would just say make sure you're not overwatering or letting water sit in there, and a fan helps a lot to keep airflow. Um, Front yard is overgrown, redoing it all together, saving. I have to tell you, Lisbeth, I think that is the way to go. If you have an area that's really bugging you, sometimes we try to save things. For the most part, I really think it's better to just pull it out and start over for the most part. I'm gonna skip down a little bit here. Um, oh my gosh. That's what I need to do is find a box of undeveloped film. This garden when we started, and there are pictures of this. I'm praying I can find them. The whole area where I plant all the dahlias right around the patio there, that entire thing was about a 12-foot wide L around the patio of a mix of very tall ornamental grasses that as soon as it rained, all flopped over, all over the place. We had to like hack a path through it to get to the garage. It was like she being the former owner, wanted screening there, but didn't want to have to deal with anything. I still pick out pieces of those ornamental grasses. And then when we We mowed it down. We rented a brush mower and we mowed it down. You guys, there were so many mice. It was like rats leaving a ship. They were running in every direction, and we kept chopping them up with the mower, which I felt bad about, but that whole thing was like a rodent haven. Oh, and that means snakes, and I don't like to talk about snakes. Okay, that sounds gorgeous. That sounds really, really lovely. I would like to garden in California for a little bit, I think. I think that would be real fun. Southwest England moved to a house in April last year. Oh, fun. Yeah, vertical gardening. Boy, such a good idea. There's so many good things to maximize your space with vertical gardening. Um, let's see. Yeah, here this is watering in Texas is crazy. That's really hard. And I don't think you have any option. If you want to have plants in places like that, you just have to have some sort of system, I think. I have no experience with cold frames. I would like experience with cold frames. I think they're pretty neat, but I understand the concept of how they work, but you know who's really good at those though is Nikki Jabor. She's got great she's part of the Savvy Gardening team, so I would check the Savvy Gardening website, but also her books are primo. She's got it totally nailed down. She's perfect. That's Nikki Jabor is her name. Wine and Weeds is returning. It's just that right now all our weeds, well, at least mine, I think Laura over at How's It Growing New Jersey, I think her weeds might be out, but my weeds are would need to be chiseled out right now. So, yes, Wine and Weeds by popular demand will come back. I like that. Start with a hope and a dream. That's where it all goes, right? Um, I don't think we're going to get into soil amendments with Roy, but I think it's a good topic because if you saw the video, the last update video, you also saw what the sand was there because now all the work's been done over there. And 18 inches to 2 feet down, that soil is 100% sand. So it's excessively sandy. And now all the topsoil has been disturbed because they dug and that it's not as much in the area where I'm working with Roy, but right next to it. They were supposed to put the topsoil back on the top and they did the best they could, but there's a lot of sand there. So we're gonna have to bring in topsoil and I'm researching what topsoil to bring in because what I don't want to do is bring in topsoil that's excessively fertile. All of the plants that we're putting in there really want leaner soil. So they won't do well in a heavily amended soil because they're just not that kind of plant. It's really plants that are meant to work with that sandy soil. So I will probably talk about that separately from Roy rather than in part of like one of our videos. But we'll get to that probably. I watch so many gardening YouTubers. I spend a lot of time on YouTube watching gardening channels. Um, let's see. Yeah, here we go. 15 to 30 deer passing through the yard daily. The deer repellent is called Messina. That's the name of the company. And it's Deer Stopper 2. Deer Stop, regular Deer Stopper works apparently is the same formula, but that one smells like rosemary and mint or something. I just prefer the other one. They claim they work exactly the same way. Um, I hope I'm not skipping you guys. If I'm skipping too far and I've missed you, you can put your question again. Um, I like this question too. You guys, I used to put down compost, particularly in that bed off the patio, every 2 to 3 years, 2 inches. I'd buy it. I'd order in really good compost because I could never make that much and put it down. And that's something that was advised in Tracy DeSabato-Oss perennial book. And it made a big difference. But I will tell you that in soil tests that I'm getting back now, my organic content is too high in my gardens. So I felt like that was really good to help get those beds established, and I don't need to do that anymore. I like it, and I know that the Brits. I know it's huge. This is like an every year thing. Jenny over at the Laundry Garden on Instagram, Monty Don. You look at all your British. What's going on here? I'm going the wrong way. Sorry. Uh, all the British gardeners really swear by that. I just know that my soil tests are coming back with too much organic matter in my soil. So I don't feel like it's necessary to do that over the whole garden. I do spot do it. Hydrangeas, I like to give a nice big layer of compost underneath, rhubarb. Um, things that like feed, honestly. Um, okay, yeah, there is a plant that I would like to grow, but it's not hardy here. Hang on, I gotta look up the name of it because I always pronounce it wrong. Oh, why can't I? Anybody else unable to type on their phone? I think it's Angel's fishing rod is the common name for it, and it's like di direma, something like that. And does that ring a bell with anybody? Angel's fishing rod plant. Yeah, diorama. Dierama. That is not hardy here, and I would love to grow that plant. That is sort of right now. That's like and um, well, whatever. There's a lot of things I can't grow here. Wow. Oh yeah, this is I love watching you guys she's got a channel and you can kind of see what's going on. There's so much potential there. I think start inside your house. Start inside your house. Look, where are you in your house? Look out, and that's where you put the garden. Or if you have a patio or something that you want to surround. But I would say start with where you live in your house so that you can enjoy your garden from your house. I have no tips about that. I have no tips on greenhouses at all because I don't have one and I'm a little afraid to go down that road, to be honest. Okay, let me get, okay, good. We're not too far behind on the comments here. Yes, I have ordered compost in bulk. I call independent garden centers that sell bulk goods and I ask them what they have. Near us, there is a brand called Purple Cow Organics that will sell in bulk through garden centers, and it's very good. And that's what I bought in the past. I don't like compost that's just like city compost because you don't know what's in there. And you don't, I mean, a lot of times, like municipalities take everybody's lawn waste, which can be full of every chemical that they've sprayed on their lawn or whatever. So or if I'm going to spend the money on compost, I buy organic, like certified organic compost. Last time I bought it, it was $34 a yard. It's probably close to 50 now, I bet, because prices have gone up so much. But it's expensive, worthwhile if you need compost. Yes, I do. That's Veronicastrum. I grow Veronicastrum, Virginica, Queen of Diamonds. It's a light pink one. And I experimented with it last year. And on some of them, I did a Chelsea chop. So, third week in June, chopped it in half. And that was interesting because they bloomed probably a week or two later than the ones that I hadn't chopped. They bloomed perfectly. They never got a lot taller. Now, personally, I didn't like that and I won't do it again. I sort of did that as an experiment because I like the height of it. But and that Queen of Diamonds is a really it's very stiff, so it doesn't flop over. But if you wanted to keep it shorter, you can size control those by doing an early season chop on them. But they're beautiful. What's this one about books? Um, I do have favorite garden books. That Tracy DeSabato Well Tended Perennial Garden is a favorite. Um, and I don't know if this is just Roy Diblik's book is a favorite, but maybe that's because I'm currently working with Roy, so I'm constantly referring back to that book. I still think I've had it for years. I think it's a good book to have. A lot of the pruning books, I have a couple of good pruning books, and I like having those as a reference around too. Those are the ones that I go back to over and over again. And then some of the prettier ones I go back to in winter when I'm looking for some inspiration. So, nothing personal. Can you do me a favor? Keep in touch with me on how that works for you. Um, Keeping them over winter, because I'd try that if it'll work. But if you're doing it anyway, you can let me know if it works before I do it. Bunnies are the worst. Bunnies are worse than deer, I think. Um, Physical barrier. I find that the deer repellent that I use does not work for rabbits. So I end up using a like a granular thing. So a lot of people like repels all. I have used plant skid in granular form, and that works for rabbits. I have not found that any of the spray ones work for rabbits. Really, my rabbit method of control is having a neighborhood fox. And when we have a good fox population, the rabbits are taken care of and it's perfect. So get yourself a fox. Yeah, this product is really interesting. We do not have this Soil 3 in our area, but it's really cool because they deliver to your house, I assume, because I see this on Instagram, in big, I don't know what, it must be 3 cubic yard, big bags. And it's perfect. And I wish we had a service like that here. And that sounds, everyone seems to really like that product. So if you have Soil 3 in your area, look for that one. Oh, yeah. See? Um, that's tough when you switch from sun to shade and you got it nailed. I mean, it's fun because the challenge is fun and it's fun to have new plants to use in a garden, but it takes a while to get used to that. You got another person here saying I should put those in a container. You guys are going to talk me into growing this yet. Um, yes, you can. That would work. They'll twine up a chain link fast fence. Yeah, yep, exactly. That's the problem with the city compost stuff. Um, this is a good question. This is one of the reasons why I like to start my dahlias in pots early, is because when they have that tender new growth that the slugs love so much, they're in a pot and they're not in the ground yet. So that's one of many reasons why I start them early. So that's one way. The bonide slug and bug repellent is organic and won't kill things other than slugs. And that works very well. So if you can get that down before you have a problem, that works really well. Um, oh, yeah. So this is the tree. If you guys see pictures of my deck, there's this tree that kind of drapes over the railing. It's called Aurelia Silver Umbrella. It's a grafted Aurelia. And I got that from Broken Arrow Nursery in 2016. And I checked them this year and they don't seem to have that this year. It might be worth calling them. That's a smaller nursery. It might be worth calling them and saying, "Do you think you'll have it again? I'd be interested in buying it." It's very hard to find, and but the problem is because it's tough for them. They have to graft that, and so a lot of nurseries don't want to deal with that. I have something on my screen right here. There we go. Let's see what else we got. Yeah, that'll never happen. He's not interested in that. I mean, I would too because it'd be funny, and but he's a super quiet guy, so I don't know that that would happen. Um, yeah, I brought in 2, 1 died pretty early on. The second one is going gangbusters. It's going in fact, it keeps flowering on me, and I keep cutting it back because I don't want it to flower. I'm currently working on rooting cuttings from it. So my plan is to take cuttings from it and root it because one of the things I've read about that is that even though it's a perennial, where the temperatures, it's a tender perennial. Apparently, it grows better the first year. So I would like to get a stockpile of essentially fresh plants with lots of energy in them. So my goal is to try to get that rooted. If that works, that is the way to go with that plant because it's so tough. In fact, I just did a presentation for a Wisconsin group a week ago or so, and I talked about that plant in it, and so many people said they've tried it and they have, including people like who have like run botanical gardens and stuff, have said it's tough. So we got to collectively we're going to crack the code on that, and we're going to get everybody growing that plant because it's so good. Love this question because I get it all the time. I don't. I have tried so many times to keep a garden journal, and I'm hopeless. Absolutely hopeless at it. That's actually why I started the garden blog in 2009 because I felt like I needed to keep track of what was going on in my garden, but I had tried journals and I was terrible at doing it. So I'm like, well, I'm just gonna, as long as I have to write it down somewhere, I'm just gonna write it on the internet and maybe someone will read it. And people did. So that's where the original posts are still up on the blog from 2009. You can go back. It actually started with creating a proper vegetable garden was the very first project that I started working on there. Come a long way since then. Um, let's see. A lot of bunny problems. They stink. Oh, here, let's talk dahlias. Let's talk dahlias. Can't wait to talk dahlias. I start my dahlias mid-April. So I pot them up in gallon pots, bring them in the house because all they need is warmth to sprout. They don't need light. And then as soon as they sprout, I put them out. I have these temporary greenhouse things, which again are getting hard to find again. And I keep them out there and I grow them out there until it's time to put them in the ground. And then I pinch them and everything. So by the time I'm planting those out in the ground, I've got a pretty good sized plant. You absolutely don't need to do that. It works best for me because one, I have a really packed garden. And so like sometimes tubers just don't stand a chance fighting against all the other plants I have going on. But also it's very helpful for me to see exactly where they are. And also, and also, um, they're going to sprout. Like if you have a dud tuber and then you save room for it and then it doesn't grow, that is really bummer. And you can better control. It's really important to control the amount of water they get early on in the process. If they get too wet, they'll rot quick. So when they're in pots, you can control all those things. Uh, it is so hard to find peat-free soil mixes. If you guys live in the eastern half of the country, organics mechanics is the way to go. In fact, I just talked to Mark Hyland, who owns that company, 2 weeks ago. I had such a good conversation with him about the peat-free thing and different aspects of that. And it was a great conversation, but B, the problem is, and you can order organics mechanics online at their website, and they will ship anywhere. However, if you're looking for it like in a garden center, they're based in Pennsylvania, so it's mostly East Coast is where you're going to find that. So, but you can order it online, but I mean, then you got to deal with shipping and stuff. So that is fully peat free. Their entire line is peat free, and I've been using their soil now for 2 or 3 years. It's way better than anything else I've ever used for container mixes. It's also they have a plant mix that I topped up my raised beds with last year, which was perfect. And it's all peat free, and that makes me real happy because I'm trying very hard to be peat free, including this year. I'm going to be planting blueberries in containers with be peat free, which is a challenge. So we'll see how that goes. Uh, well, you're welcome. Welcome, welcome to the Dahlia addiction. Um, hey, thanks. Right back at you. Oh, here, what's this? No, because we had a neighbor who did that. When we moved in, our neighbor next door had a corn feeder. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. This is ridiculous. Um, and I mean, I don't think I ever said anything because you got to keep neighborly relations, but no, I wasn't happy with that at all. And actually, here it's illegal. So, I mean, just some places it's illegal. Here it's illegal to do that because you're baiting them, and you're not allowed to do that here. So, maybe it is in your area too. Um, what's this? Oh, here we go. So many questions about clay soil. So, amend clay soil. Don't use sand. Amend it with. I mean, first of all, I think dealing with clay soil, especially in an established garden, um, it's a process. So all you really need is organic matter. It depends a little bit where you live, what that's going to be. Here, it would be leaves. And I will tell you that I have been to a garden nearby. Beautiful as a. I hope she's doing okay. She was like 5 or 6 years ago when I first started gardening. She was about 85. She gets people to help her in her garden. That garden is solid clay. Solid, like it's almost like it was back in the day. They scraped off any bit of topsoil that had been there, Like her house was certainly from the probably 40s or 50s, but just solid clay. And she did it, amended her garden into the most. First of all, the garden was beautiful. The soil was spectacular. 100% with leaves and tons of them. So she created on the sort of the backside of her property, she put a whole fence, and it was probably like a fenced in area that was, I would say, 6 feet deep. And she put leaves back there. Everyone's leaves. Every neighbor who had leaves, she would drive around and collect leaves. As time went on, people knew she wanted leaves. They would, and she just dumped them there and basically created an enormous leaf mold pile. And then as those broke down a little bit, even before they were fully broke down, she put those on her garden. Now, and her soil was amazing. So she didn't work it in, she just used it on top. So if you're in a place where you have a lot of leaves, I would do the leaf mold thing. Pine needles, pine straw would work well for that. Something organic that you can get for free. Put it on there. Better if it breaks down a little bit before you put it on there. But even if you don't do that, it'll break down in place. But that's what I would do. Hi, Sullivan. Have you guys been following Sullivan? She fell off the wagon, the proverbial wagon now, but she was doing great. She was posting a video every single day in February, and then she got busy doing other things, which is completely understandable. But she's got some great videos up that she put up in February there. That's somebody else, I think. That's somebody else. If it is his, I haven't heard that. I think that some Nicotiana will do well. There's the woodland one. What is that? Celestris, maybe? Will do well in that sort of dappled sunlight situation. The rest of them, I don't think they're going to do as well as you want them to do. So it's probably not worth that. There's probably a better plant for that then. Am I ever? There's so many new plants that are coming to this garden this year, you guys. First of all, Roy's really, taken me further down the grasses path, which is great. So I'm excited about some of those grasses that were, I mean, he's got Millennia, Heitenbrock going in my garden. And then he had mentioned Paul Peterson to me as another Millennia, which I bought for another part of the garden. So that was, excuse me. So I'm excited about those. I'm just excited about getting better at doing the Roy thing. Getting better at thinking about plants as a group and not plants as individuals. I do have some kind of fun annuals that I'm hopefully growing if they work. We'll see. Oh, look at you, Dorothy. Go. We're going to all cross our fingers that you keep those babies going because they can go sour real quick. So here's how I've always done verbena bonariensis. People in warmer zones are going to probably be like, oh, just come to my garden and come get it because it's a prolific reseeder in warmer zones. I have always started the only way I've had success with verbena bonariensis is winter sowing, which is funny because I don't do a lot of winter sowing because I don't have a lot of luck with it. But it is one thing that I've had luck with. So winter sowing seems to work well. Once you get them going, though, they do reseed. So long as you don't have big, thick layers of wood chip mulch in your garden where no seed can get to the soil, it will reseed. The issue is that it takes a while. Like they bloom later because in zone 5 it doesn't warm up. In zone 7, I think a lot of people look at them almost as a weed. So, it might be one of those things where buy a few. I would try winter sowing is probably the easiest way to do that. And then maybe buy a few and then you'll have them forever as long as you don't have a ton of mulch in your garden. We did talk about Japanese beetles a bit, so check that out on the replay. If your dahlias are molding, it's too much. It's either too much moisture while in storage or they were too wet going into storage, but it's probably too much in storage. I'm gonna today I'm gonna dig out some of my HS date dahlias and I'm going to try to sprout some of them and take a few cuttings because I decided that it would be really cool in that new garden that I made by the driveway. It would be cool to plant maybe a couple of big swaths of those HS date dahlias. So I figure I'm sure I've got enough. So I'm gonna pull some out today and try to get them sprouting, and then I'll take cuttings from those and grow those from cuttings, which would be the first time I've personally grown dahlias from cuttings. I have bought cuttings from other people, and um, they worked fine. Yeah, you need a big cutting bed. It's all my fault. That's fine. I'll take it. I like that. I like dahlias being my fault. Shriveled dahlia tubers. One thing is, that I don't know what this is happening here. Um, One thing is if they're still in storage, moisten your storage medium just with a spray bottle. Don't get it wet, but moisten it. They can kind of plump up. Last year I had a very shriveled tuber come out of storage for whatever reason. And I potted it up and marked it to keep track of it, and it made no difference. It grew just as well as all of the other ones. So don't give up on them, even if they're shriveled, as long as they have something left to them. If they're like a shell and there's nothing on the inside, then they're done. But don't give up on them just because they're shriveled. Because last year, my very unscientific experiment showed that it made no difference. Um, yeah. Well, keep in mind that like the dahlias that they sell at Costco are from Longfield Gardens. So, um, they're basically the same thing you're gonna be ordering. So absolutely. Dahlias are tough. The only problem is if you run into a box store that hasn't stored them properly once they've got them, that's when you run into problems because they're dead ass dry. Um, oh, fabulous. Thank you, Roxanne. You guys, so this is good that Burpee has a organic peat free. That's great to know. Yeah, not so dormant bare root plants. This is a problem, and this I think is really an issue because, you know, they're forcing you into essentially planting these. I guess if I were buying these, what I would do is try to keep them as dormant as possible. You know how when you pull out a dahlia sometimes from storage and it's got a little sprout on it, it's clearly sort of took itself out of dormancy. I would go by that same thing, and I'd try to force them into some sort of dormancy to just keep that because potting them up and keeping them inside is not right for perennials. I mean, that doesn't work. And it's obviously if your ground's solid frozen, can't frozen solid. You can't do that. So I'd probably look for a very cool, very dark place and try to keep them dormant as best you can because I think that's got your best chance of success. But this happens all the time because a lot of these plants are grown in places that are warmer than where they end up. Um, yeah, absolutely. Some people grow their dahlias in Marianne from Small Town Gardener, who wrote the Tropical Plants book. She grows her dahlias in pots and just sinks the pots in the ground and then pulls them up. I've never done that, but it might be another thing to think about doing. Um, I have grown dahlias from seed. I did it last year. Floret with their book sent out a little packet of seeds if you pre-ordered the book. And so I grew dahlias from seed last year. It was so easy. It was incredibly easy. If you don't care what varieties you get and you're kind of in for a little bit of a surprise, so easy. I did start them ahead inside to get them going in time. And I did save tubers from one of them because there was only one that I really liked. And a lot of them were very, very tall. And I tend to like, yeah, I'm always looking for shorter varieties to work into my garden a little easier. But I did save a tuber from one. In fact, the ones I grew from seed grew better tubers than some of the ones that I bought rooted cuttings for, which is not how that should have worked because the rooted cutting ones were really expensive. So yeah, you can absolutely do that. Um, yeah, a lot of people's neighbors are feeding the deer. I mean, do you just want to invite like more Lyme disease into your garden or what? I don't understand it. I mean, I don't get me wrong. I think deer are beautiful creatures from a distance, nowhere near my garden. Um, okay, so the perennial mint that I've been growing it's mountain mint. I don't know if it's the same. If you guys watched Laura Garden Answer this morning, she was planting mountain mint, but there was no botanical name on that seed packet, so I'm not sure if it's the same thing. The one that I grow is Pycnanthemum muticum. There's also another Pycnanthemum that's kind of got more of a thread leaf. That's the perennial, and then I think that's the one you're probably talking about. Um, I fertilize my containers these days a lot. When I plant my container, I mix in time release fertilizer, Osmocote. So first of all, I try to grow everything I can in this garden organically. And I'm trying to think if there's anything I don't grow, or sometimes I don't grow the roses organically because they need some non-organic assistance. That's kind of an issue with roses. But containers, I do not grow organically. So when I'm making a container, I mix in Osmocote, time release fertilizer at the time of planting. And your containers kind of sit there for like 3 weeks, like not a lot is happening. And then once they actively start growing, once a week, I do water soluble fertilizer. Typically, the Proven Winners water soluble fertilizer or the Jax water soluble fertilizer once a week. It does give you a ton of, it just keeps things blooming. It does give you a ton of growth that you're going to have to deal with later in the season. But it does keep things moving. Um, let's see. You know, I don't think, by the way, that there's anything wrong with having a collector's garden. I don't think there's anything wrong with having any kind of garden. If that's what you like, then what does it matter? I mean, I don't think you should worry about what anyone else says. If you like having, a collection of things, that's great. I think that's great. Um, just looking through here. I'm also going to, I just want to pop on. I'm going to take a look at some of the questions that I got. I just want to make sure I'm not missing anything too big here. Um, oh, here. Sorry, we have to pause for a gin question. Um, I don't drink as much gin in winter as I do in summer. Um, so I haven't really discovered any new ones that I really love, but last year, I think it was Nick McCullough when he came over. By the way, I think this is official now. I hope I'm not going to get in trouble with Nick. Nick McCullough, garden designer Nick McCullough. You guys might follow him on Instagram or somewhere else. He and his wife Allison, who is his business partner, and then Teresa Woodard, who is a writer of many articles and books, wrote a book together, and I think it's called American Design Garden Design, and it's coming out this coming late summer or fall. And I thought I read that it was available for pre-order now. I haven't checked, but my garden's in there. So they came last year to my garden. I have lots of feelings about this. One, I'm just so thrilled to be a part of it. I just really wish it hadn't been last year. It was a terrible year in the garden. It was such a hard, hard, hard year in the garden. And I look back at the pictures and I'm disappointed in what I see. And I'm trying not to be because I know that we all critique our own gardens differently than other people do. But anyway, I'm excited to be in the book. So that book's coming out. Anyway, he brought me a bottle of Empress, which is the blue one. That was really good. That's a summery gin, but that was really good. A lot of you probably know that one. A lot of people have recommended that one to me. Um, I have grown some perennials from seed. I just I like a little, they take a while. A lot of times you're not going to get anything till the second year on those, and you guys know that I'm kind of impatient about things, so that's why I often buy plants. Yes, that too. Um, yeah, I had two of them last year, and that was yeah. I think I could. I don't think this is a secret. No one's told me I can't say this. The other one was Better Homes and Gardens came last year. They came 3 weeks or so before Nick did. It was really stressful. Um, So, I think I haven't been told when that story is coming out, but summer Is that supposed to be in Better Homes and Gardens? I hope it turns out okay. Um, it was so stressful. It was really, really stressful. In fact, well, whatever. Anyways, it was stressful. Okay, here, let me try to get to the questions again because I don't want to miss some of those because there were some really good questions that I'm just going to kind of rapid fire off from Instagram. Um, okay, somebody asked me if I know enough about tree grafting to make a video. I don't. I know nothing about that. I'm fascinated by it. I would like to learn how to do that sometime. I don't know anything about that. Um, oh, stop. Oh, see, I'm trying to scroll and it's a picture that I took. Planting out sweet peas, you do it earlier than you think. They can handle a lot of cold, and it's much better to get them out into the garden than have them live too long in pots. So that's my advice on that. Um, oh, there were some questions about what to do about like spring flowering bulbs and stuff. So the answer is the right thing to do is to leave all of the foliage except pop off the top, the little seed capsule thing, like on a daffodil, it's very obvious there's a swelling where the seed is forming. Pop that off, leave the stem, leave everything. And then you leave that all standing until it turns yellow, and then you can cut it off and it can go away. That's if you're gonna do everything by the book. I don't often want to do it by the book, and although when you plant your bulbs, you're really supposed to be paying attention to sort of tucking perennials around them so that foliage just gets kind of covered up, and you never have to. If it's covered up by the perennials, you never have to go back and cut it off. It'll just take care of itself. But who wants to do that? And I didn't plan that very well. So I will cut foliage back and just recognizing that the bulb will probably come back. It will not be as strong because it just didn't have anything to feed on. So if you're good with understanding that when you cut your foliage off early, that it's reducing the life of your bulb, that's fine. Do that. That's what I do sometimes. I do have one that grows in the patio bed. I always pay attention to it. It is the first daffodil to bloom in my garden every single year, and it's like clockwork. I'm sure because it's in that little microclimate. And I get real sick of it, and then I plant all those annuals there, and I chop it off, and it comes back every year anyway. So, um, you know, that's that. Cup and saucer vine seeds, yeah, they get big quick. It's not bad that you started them early because if you want them to flower decently in summer, you got to start them early. So keep potting them up, and then give them a big chop, and they'll grow back up again. Last year, I had mine in gallon-sized pots, or even bigger, maybe. By the time I took them out, and I had cut them just once, but hard, and they were quite big. So just keep feeding them, keep growing them on. They'll be okay. But yeah, it's not bad that you did that, that you started them early. Um, okay, let me see what else there is from the Instagram stuff. We talked about shriveled up dahlia tubers. What are the most deer and rabbit proof plants? Plants that have a very strong scent and plants that have furry leaves. Both of those I have never had any issue with. They don't like the texture of fuzzy leaves, and strong scent generally keeps them away. So those are sort of two from category wise that you can look at. Um, Someone asked how I take pictures of my garden for record keeping, which this kind of goes back to the garden journal question. That's just with my phone. I do take like proper pictures with that camera back there a few times a year when things are looking really good or whatever. Although I lost most of those in the great uh, hack that we had. I don't know if you guys heard about that, but we got a ransomware attack on our server, like the NAS server that we use at home. We are still trying to recover everything, and I'm not going to pay. They want like $3,000 in Bitcoin. That's not happening. So anyway, I lost a lot of photos from last year, but just my phone. It's just quick little things when I'm walking around. You can always delete them later. I can't tell you how many times they don't have to be when you're using them just for keeping track of what has happened in your garden, which is incredibly helpful. They don't have to be award-winning photos. Just snap pictures like crazy. I try to. I'm not very good about it. I mean to, and you should. I'm just not very good about saving room for more. And then whether do I get, am I ever going to get back to it? But I try. Yes, I do. In fact, this morning's video on YouTube started with that. So, okay, we are, holy cow, I could just talk about gardening all day, especially since it's snowy out and there's not a lot I can do in my garden today anyway. Hey, hang on, I'm just gonna, oh, somebody asked on Instagram about hedge plants along a parking lot to hide cars, but still leave a view of the lake beyond in full sun. I think that hedging plants, first of all, I think ornamental grasses are a really good option there, but not like, please don't make a little line of soldiers of like Carl Forrest or, Calamagratis. Don't do that. Um, but work in sort of a design that involves, I mean, it's not really screening at that point. It's more of it's a invisible screen. It's a loose screen, right? So I would do a loose planting of several things with some height on it. And that way you'll see beyond it. But you don't want to put up like a big evergreen hedge or something. Um, I hope so. I have so many good ideas. I need to hire somebody to manage that stuff for me because I have really good ideas. Um, Including I would like to do some stuff beyond just the t-shirts and stuff. That requires a little bit more planning. And I got a little busier this winter. I can't tell you guys how, I think it's going to be a really big year for gardening just based on um, companies are investing a lot of money into gardens this year. They really recognize that people want gardening stuff, and people are interested in talking about content and that kind of stuff a lot earlier this year than they have in the past. Um, oh, here, you know what, we're gonna I think I can share a screen. I'm gonna show you guys. This is a little sneak peek. Let's see. Share screen. See how this works. Oh, you're probably gonna see yourselves for a second here. Um, oh, never mind. I don't know what this is. Open system. Never mind. We're not gonna do that. I thought I could, but it wants me to. It seems odd. I was gonna show you a picture of some things that are happening here, but you'll see it soon enough, probably on the blog. Um, but I thought I could share that with you, and I can't. Um, Hoodies. Somebody wants hoodies. You can do hoodies if I can just get around to any of it. Um, oh, I like this question. My favorite way to interplant dahlias. I love that idea because I think that dahlias deserve to be grown. Dahlias deserve to be grown as garden plants, not just in rows to look at their flowers. So, of course, some are better suited to that than others. Um, so I would say just think of their form and what works around them in terms of form, and then you can grow anything. I think grasses look great with dahlias. I think Nepeta is a total no-brainer for me. You guys know that I love growing um, that wild magic basil, which is an edible basil that I grow as an ornamental, but I think that dark purple foliage looks great with that. Um, Long sleeve t-shirts. Interesting. We can do all of those things. Um, oh, I would sew them. I would sew them now. I mean, I would try them both, but I would sew them. I'd sew them now, and then maybe again in autumn. But I think if you start early enough, you might be able to get some now. Um, I feel like the cottage garden look is so open to interpretation. A lot of those are going to be biennials. So think about biennials, perhaps. and I don't know how well those are going to work in zone 9A. I apologize for that. But when I think of cottage gardens, I mean, a lot of those are reseeders. The traditional cottage gardeners are a lot of reseeders and a lot of biennials. So things like foxglove, hollyhocks. What else? Um, Obviously, shrub roses are great in cottage gardens. They're like the epitome of cottage garden plants. But I would also look to think about incorporating some spikier, more vertical flowers in that. So that could be things like salvia or veronica, to get a little bit of, because a lot of the traditional cottage garden plants can be very rounded rounded flowers. So I think if you get some vertical accents in there, that'd be good. What about meadow rue? This is a question we should ask ourselves all the time. I love meadow rue. It's so good. Just absolutely, absolutely fabulous plant. Ah, anytime you want to attract hummingbirds, look at the shape of the flowers, and as long as they're, like long, so Kufia, number one is Kufia. Um, the one that Proven Winners has that I've grown a lot is called Verbillionaire. That one they go nuts for. In fact, I don't even particularly like that plant that much, but I grow it right next to where we sit on the patio because it's just a constant stream of hummingbirds zipping by. Um, Nicotiana, big with hummingbirds. That rock and fuchsia salvia, but all those salvias, those annual salvias, those are hummingbird magnets too. So those are three that work great. Oh, hang on, I gotta go back. This is a good question. Defining the amount of sun that you get in the garden is so difficult, but I would this to me is from 4 to sun, 4 to 7. I would call that part shade because the odds are the sun that you do get in that time is probably pretty bright sun, that late afternoon sun. So I would consider that to be part shade, probably not shade. Sometimes the difference is only how bright it is in that area, but I would probably call that part shade because if you're getting sun at 4 o'clock on a summer afternoon, it might fry a full shade plant. Um, nope, they won't be. Nicotia, at least if you've grown other Nicotianas near it, well, first of all, it depends which ones you started with. Some of them are F1 hybrids. So if it's an F1 hybrid, it will not be true to the parent. Well, it won't be true to what you planted. It could be one of the parent plants, but it will not be true to what you planted. If you grow several types of Nicotiana, they will intermingle, and some very cool things pop up. So I've actually had a lot of fun with that. One of the coolest ones that I really like is the one that is, oh gosh, make the brain work today. Is Nicotiana alata lime green and Nicotiana Langsdorffii, which is the small little tube one that kind of hangs down, which has really, really, really bright chartreuse color. When those two combine, you get one, at least in my garden, I have gotten one that looks like a lot of lime green, a little smaller, but the brightest, most vivid green, and it's really cool. But no, you probably won't if you've grown other ones, right? Also, I've been talking for a long time. Um, your blue suede shoe salvia, that's fabulous. Nothing ever comes back here. Although a lot of those things I grow in pots and toss them anyway, so I guess I wouldn't know, right? Um, Let me just make sure we're oh, we talked a little bit about drip irrigation, but one of the questions I got on Instagram was whether drip irrigation is better at 12 inches or 18-inch spacing. And I think with my relatively limited experience with drip irrigation, I think it's better to go closer, to go to that 12-inch, because you can always reduce the time that you water. So if things are getting too much water, you can always reduce the time that you water. Otherwise, you're in a situation where if you've got them spaced too far, you got to water for a much longer time. And I think that's a little harder to figure out. Um, yeah, lots of people. Oh, mosquitoes. Yeah. Oh, gomphrena. Yes. Soak your gomphrena. Makes a big difference. So soak them. I don't know what they say, if it's a day or 3 hours or whatever it is, but it makes a big difference. Those are tiny little seeds that must have a very hard seed coat on them. I find gomphrena tough to get going, so soaking does help a lot. I love all lime green flowers. Yeah, it is. I have to tell you that the drip irrigation that we put in the vegetable garden has been a total game changer because it allows me to leave. Because you can't in a vegetable garden, you got to have consistent water. And you can't hire someone. We always have someone stay at our house, but I'll tell you what, there is no house sitter slash dog sitter slash cat sitter slash plant sitter who can do all those things well. And when I'm hiring somebody, I just mostly want them to keep the animals happy. So it allows me to leave without having to worry about it because the drip irrigation is handling the watering, and I'm not going to come back to a because once you there's no bringing vegetables back really. Once they dry out or something, it's not like a plant where sometimes you can bring them back to life. You just can't. I think everyone who's grown pomace grass should answer this question. In my understanding, having never grown it, yes, it's a total nightmare. Takes over your world. But maybe people who have grown it can talk about that. Um, and okay, we're gonna get rid of that one. Underplanting rhododendrons. No, and you know why? Because I can't really grow rhododendrons here because of the acid soil situation. But a lot of things that you water, that you underplant things with, I mean, I just think anything that gets kind of bushy at the bottom is good. So if there's a lot of shade there, probably. Maybe something like Brunera would be good there. Um, Geranium macrorrhizum grows literally anywhere in the world. Well, anywhere in any condition, I would say, maybe not anywhere in the world. So that's a good one too. I would think about those. All right, I think since this has been like an hour and a half, I told you guys I could talk about this forever. Um, Lots of stuff happening in the garden this year. We will do more of these because I enjoy touching base to find out what's happening in your gardens and helping you guys out where I'm able to, but mostly just talking gardening. Um, oh, hang on, I do see one. Oh, hold on. Can we show that one? There we go. I have not had tarnished plant bugs. I have had thrips. There's a reason why Nicole over at Flower Hill Farm uh, says what the thrip because they're little buggers. That's when you got to get to your organic sprays. And I can't remember off the top of my head if that's like a horticultural oil or a neem oil thing, but thrips are rough, man. One year, I had I was growing Nicotiana in a big pot, and the whole thing got covered in aphids. And I've never had aphids on Nicotiana before. I think those plants were water stressed, and that's why they went to those. I've never had issues with it. That said, they all looked pretty good despite the aphids on them. And you can chop a Nicotiana off, and it'll resprout. So that if it gets really bad, you can go do that. Um, so today I'm going to pre-sprout some. I'm going to pre-sprout some dahlias. I'm going to start some lettuce because I've got some spring containers I want to make, and I'm going to try to use lettuce in those. So I'm going to try growing some lettuce, and most exciting, there is a big ass box on my front porch that was delivered yesterday that is a new planter. So I'm going to go out there and open that up, and that is going to be really exciting. It's big. I love big planters. Um, Oh, I'm wondering if somebody asked if ladies mantle was invasive. Listen, first of all, I've got two comments. One, ladies mantle is a plant I would never be without in a garden. Two, I don't believe in calling plants invasive unless they are truly an invasive plant. They might be aggressive, they might be prolific, they might be thuggish, but they are not invasive unless they are from a different country or a different area that's not native and outcompete native plants. That's my definition, and a lot of other people's definitions. So, no, it's not. Does it reseed? Yep. Who doesn't want more ladies mantle? Just move it around the garden. It's not hard to pull out. So, um, Oh gosh, you guys want an unboxing video of the planter? I don't know. Maybe. You'll see. I can't really put it in place right now because it's replacing the planter by the front door, which is currently 100% full of oodles of soil with all the Christmas decorations in it because they're all frozen in there. So I can't get anything out. So I don't really know where I'm even going to put this thing for the moment. Anyways, ladies mantle, lovely plant. It does reseed a bit. Just move it around, give it to someone. It grows in everything from full sun to part shade. It's just lovely. Um, all right. I think we should call that good. Everyone's probably got stuff they have to do, and I got dogs who are desperate for a walk. So that's the first item on the agenda today. Is dog. What's a good source for page planters? What's a page planter? Is that supposed to be like a big planter? We're going to talk about big planters at some point. Actually, you guys, first of all, I will just say this. Sullivan Owen did do a video not too long ago where she shared her sources for containers. There's some good sources on there. So do check that one out. And I think I've done one on the blog, but I haven't updated for a while. This is my biggest frustration. Finding good big planters is so hard. And I'm a big believer in big planters. I mean, the smallest planter 16 inches is by far the smallest planter I'll even think about using, really for anything. But mostly I want 24 inches and above. I want big planters because I want big displays. I'm babbling. It's time to go. You guys have a great day. I hope you guys are doing something fun. Thank you all for coming so much. I can't thank you enough for coming. This was so much fun. It's so fun to touch base. Keep in touch on Instagram. You guys know there's I'm usually about a week behind on videos. So that's why the pruning of the hornbeams that I did last weekend is going to be coming up soon. So all the up to date stuff is always on Instagram in terms of what's happening right there. That's pretty much live timeline. And I'm always running a little bit behind. I think, have a very cool video collaboration coming up. It was supposed to happen this week. I haven't gotten what I needed from the fellow gardener in question, but keep your eye out for that one because that one I think will be pretty good. It's a very casual collaboration, but it's good information from somebody I think you guys all know. So, anyway, have a great day, you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks always for all your support. I really appreciate it. Love talking to you guys. Take care.